Most books about the American Civil War feature endless battle statistics and highlight famous generals and armies. Rarely do they mention, however, how the work of engineers contributed to the success of those generals and armies. Of over 3,500 regiments, battalions, and companies in the United States military service, only 6% were engineer units. Civil War engineers designed and erected fortifications, surveyed, prepared maps, and built bridges and roads. Private Sam of the 15th New York Engineers now addresses a squadron of fresh recruits, introducing them to tasks and skills in which they will soon become well-versed. Living historian Sally Chetwynd began reenacting in 1975. She developed this engineering role from her work in today's civil engineering profession. Under the name Brass Castle Arts, she also offers computer drafting, historical music, writing and editing, and graphic arts, besides hands-on living history programs.
Welcome. My name is Private Sam Chetwynd. I'm of the 15th New York Engineers. Now put your muskets down over there, stack your muskets. Your tools as engineers are going to be shovels, ruling pens, and surveyor's chains. Now, one of the things we're going to have to do is determine whether or not you folks have any kind of experience at all. Does anybody here have any engineering experience at all? No, we're not going to be driving trains, but we do build bridges for the railroad. What about my maritime experience? Oh, good. You're going to be able to help me show the rest of these folks how to do knots and lashing. Can you all read, write, and do your ciphering? Good. That's very important. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to learn is that with surveying, we need to be able to survey things because we don't know the territory in these parts very much. The reason for that is we've got this war going on, and here we are stationed in the South. We've got people from all over the country descended in these various armies, and they're from Minnesota. They don't know where anything is. General Grant, for example, he's from Illinois. Unless he has a map, unless we go out and survey and determine what's going on around here, he doesn't know if that stream down there is the Rappahannock or the Rapidan. So we're going to be learning how to do surveying. One of the things that's important is learning to measure. This is a surveyor's chain. This is actually a half chain. A full chain is 66 feet long. It's made up of 100 links. Each link is 7.92 inches in length. 100 links makes up 66 feet, and 80 chains makes up a mile. And if I need to measure something that's a lot longer than my 66 feet or my 33 feet, I set this pin in the ground. I can put the end of it right over that, measure it out, stick another pin. I got all kinds of these pins. Stick another pin in the ground, come back, leave the one pin, pick up the end of the chain, swing it around, and keep on going in the direction that I want to go. These surveyor's chains are marked with little lobes so that you don't have to worry, especially with a 100 link one, you don't have to worry about forgetting if somebody interrupts you, whether you were on 39 or 42. Each one of these lobes marks a 10 link distance. So this one's 3 lobes, 4 lobes, 2 lobes. So that's how you tell where you are. Makes it a lot easier to add these things up. Now, one thing that you're going to have to be learning how to do is riding in the saddle and taking notes. You'll acquire a horse, and you go down, you measure that horse's step, this tread. You measure how far that tread is, and you mark it in your notebook. This is going to be very important because when you're sitting on the horse and you're riding through the countryside and you're taking notes about what's in the neighborhood, what kind of trees you've got, what kind of crossings, what kind of a road, you're mentally counting how many steps that horse is taking. Then when you get to back to camp, you've got to draw your map. You can mark that up. You can multiply by that horse length, that horse pace. And you'll see on a lot of these initial sketches so many horse paces from this corner to that corner. So that's one of the things you're going to have to learn. It comes automatically after a while. Now, when you get back to camp and you want to make your map, you're going to have drafting tools. Now, the topographer's tent has all these supplies. You can go down there, draw your maps up. They have maps of the area, what is available, and you determine from your resources what other materials are available. The Coast Survey has very good maps of the lands along the seacoast. They don't have much for inland, but troops coming in from the field, they're able to tell you what they've seen. You can talk to locals, sometimes captured prisoners, and will be able to tell you what's going on. You're going to draw your map. Your first map you're going to draw in pencil, and then you will ink it because it's a lot easier to draw it in pencil when you make your mistakes. Once you've inked it, you're not going to be able to correct it very readily. So this is something that's called a ruling pen. It's 2 blades. You can probably see that. 2 blades. It has a little adjusting screw, so you can open those blades and close those blades. And you take an eyedropper, which I seem to have misplaced here, dip the eyedropper into the inkwell. There's my inkwell. And then you drop that eyedropper of ink right in between those 2 blades. And that allows you to fill the pen. Then you can draw your lines. Drafting and drawing, you've heard of draft horses. It's a term, drawing is pulling. So when you're drawing on a map, you're literally pulling the pen. So that's where we get that term, drafting. Draft horses pull wagons. Draftsmen pull pens. So we'll look at a couple of maps here. We've got a number of maps. This is a completed one of Fredericksburg area. We had a big battle down there back in '82. These items you see here, all these little marks, these are called hatchers. Now these indicate elevation. If they're close together, they indicate a steep slope. If they're more broadly separated, they indicate a more shallow slope. We don't have a sense from these maps of how high above sea level, for example, that we may be. But we get a sense of the relative elevation over an area that may be down near the water's edge, like Fredericksburg here. This is down on the water's edge. During this Battle of Fredericksburg, the Confederates had artillery set up here in Marie's Heights. They had full command of the city. They were able to protect the rebels that were down in this area, and they were shooting at us while we were trying to put our pontoon bridges in. So that made it not very much fun. This is an example of a partially completed map. You can see there's a lot of pencil marks. I've begun inking this one. This is of the Battle of First Bull Run area, Loudoun County. Manassas the village of Manassas is down in this area. Now you may think that you've gotten a map complete, but and this one was relatively complete, but then afterwards I discovered that there was more information as people came in out of the field and told me, oh, well, here's Thomas Simpson's house over here. So I've marked more information on this map. I can ink it in. This will be valuable if we need to go back into that area later. Now this book here, this is Duane's manual. Captain Duane of the Engineer Corps produced it in 1862, so it's a pretty new book. This will tell you everything you need to know. Now you'll notice I'm merely a private, but you recruits, you're the same rank as I am. But because I have experience, because of this book and the training that it has given me, I have the ability and the authority and the experience to train you folks on how to become engineers. So one of the things that we need to know how to do is when the Army is on the move, we need to be able to cross streams. One of the means by which we do that is through the use of pontoon bridges. And we have whole wagons full of materials by which we can haul bridges with us and put them together. A pontoon is really nothing more than a canvas tent upside down in the water. The canvas is oiled, it has a wooden frame. The canvas is tied to the frame so that it stays together. The whole thing is mortise and tenon construction. You've got the peg in the hole. The pressure of the water helps keep all of that pulled together so it's not going to fall apart on us. We're going to go across the stream perpendicular to the flow. We start out with something called balk. These are very heavy beams. You see some of those up here on the shore. We dig one in as an abutment, fix it with a couple of pins, and then we start putting these boats in the water, one right next to the other. They are facing up and downstream. They're side by side, they go across the stream. Once you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of them there, then you can start putting some more bark across the tops of them on the gunnels. And with ropes, we lash the barks to the pontoons. Then when we've got a few of them out there, we start putting planking down. The planking is called chess. And they're notched so that we can use more rope to lash to the bark. So the chess are lashed to the bark are lashed to the pontoons are anchored to the stream, to the shore, and eventually you get across to the other side and you've got a pretty good bridge. This bridge is stable enough to take artillery, to take infantry, to take cavalry. They can be made double wide. If it's going to be down for any length of time, we put earth on it. It helps protect the wood from wearing out. Now, another thing that Dwayne's manual is good for is fortifications. If you need to either lay a siege or you need to build a fort, whether you're on the offensive or the defensive, this book tells you a lot of things. When you're going to build a fort, you need to find high ground. And you're going to clear all the area around that ground. And as you're clearing, you end up with an awful lot of lumber. Well, the big stuff can be used to build the fort. Somewhat smaller branches, 3-4 inches in diameter, we're going to use for chevaux de frise. Smaller than that, 2 to 3 inches in diameter, we'll use for fraise. Smaller than that, we'll use the supple small branches for gabion building. And then we will use the leftover brush for a bodice. Now, the fraise, which I have a picture of here, these are pointed sticks in the ground. And they're stuck into the ground about 18 inches apart. Now, we don't agree with the enemy about everything, but they're not so stupid that they're going to impale themselves on these. That's not the purpose of these. They're close enough together so when an army approaches the fort, which has rings of these around it, it stops them. They try to get in between, those points get caught on their clothes, under their straps. If they're standing still, you're up in the fort and you can fire right down on them. So that's very, very useful that way. So chevaux de frise is a bigger kind of a format of a similar thing. They're against horses. Chevaux means horses in French, and frise means they came from Friesland, where they were first used, which is a part of the Netherlands. Now we're beginning to run a little short at this point. It's too bad they sent you over so late, but we will continue tomorrow, and I hope that you'll remember this. The Army, their job is to destroy things. They destroy towns, they destroy enemy troops, they destroy bridges, they destroy supply depots. The engineers' work enables the Army to do its job, but by doing so, we build things. Dismissed.